Today I'm going to be talking about what it means to be a warrior in Asatru or Heathenry, a modern heathen warrior in today's culture. The misconceptions and the modern realisms of what it is, which I will then pull and move into the importance of preparation and survivalism from a modern aspect as people who want to call ourselves warriors. That being said, everybody here who has ever served in the U.S. military, please raise your hand. Great. Were all three of you ever removed from military service, or did you do your whole term?
Whole term. I was removed.
Okay, so we have one guy here who has already earned the right in modern heathenry to call himself a warrior, and I'm not one of them. I served in the U.S. Marine Corps. I was removed. We have to look at the fact from a warrior, and a lot of people in heathenry, especially Asatru, especially modern Asatru, like to call themselves warriors. I'm a warrior of Odin. I'm a heathen warrior. I'm an Asatru warrior. Yes, Asatru is, in my opinion, a warrior's religion. Because when we look at our culture anciently and we bring those things into a modern sense, everything was about fighting for what you had, to some point. That doesn't mean you're Einanyar. That doesn't mean, as an Asatru or heathen, that you've earned the right to actually call yourself a warrior. And most of the people who do are wrong. Plain and simple, you're not. You haven't earned the right. You haven't earned the right in your community, and you haven't earned the respect necessary to use that term. You don't get to decide if you're a warrior unless you're like him. Unless you've taken the time to join the military or to join civil service such as law enforcement and actually serve your term, putting your life on the line in service to your community as a warrior, have you earned the right to call yourself a warrior? You want to be a warrior, you want to be a warrior in Asatru, it requires a lifetime of work. It requires a lifetime of service and sacrifice. That was a warrior's place. Warriors in ancient times in our people was everybody. They were farmers and ranchers and craftsmen and woodworkers who in times of war or need or even desire, you look at the Vikings, even in desire, put their lives on the line for the betterment of their family and hence their community. Because that's what their lives evolved around. If you were solitary during the Viking Age or before, you were going to die. Period. You were going to die. You know, unless you were Grettir, you know, in Iceland, which is probably one of the few examples of somebody who could be outlawed and still have the life he had and become a folk hero to his people. With the exception of that one exception, all the rest of them were high-ranked members within their community. They did not give themselves that position. Their community gave themselves that position after a lifetime of service. After committing themselves to service and sacrifice, their community said, this guy is a warrior. This guy is a fighter. This guy is a berserker or a Viking or whatever term they were using at whatever time period you're talking about. So always take that into consideration. If you are somebody who calls yourself a warrior, when you're telling that to other people, the fact that you study a martial art, or you're part of the SCA, or you train with swords or weapons, none of that makes you a warrior. Your community, your family, your independent culture as a part of the heathen community is what gets to determine if you're a warrior. I push myself every day of my life to live by a warrior's definition of the 9 noble virtues. I work hard. I train almost every day. And I am still fat and lazy. I push my martial skills, I teach them to other people, and I constantly learn. I am both skilled in hand weapons that are traditional to our ancestors as well as traditional to other ancestors, as well as modern tactical armament. I am certified in firearm training, firearm conditioning, takedown, repair, and compulsion. And I do not refer to myself as a warrior. I was removed from military service because the U.S. Marine Corps did not feel that I properly fit within their military service. That aspect alone says that I have not earned the right to call myself a warrior. Only my community gets to make that decision from this point on. And my community makes that decision based upon the acts of my life. What am I doing in service to my community that defines me as a warrior? Because it's not just the martial training. It's not just guns and swords and knives and hand-to-hand combat. And it's not just teaching it to other people and making sure that they're skilled and that they're knowledgeable in these areas. That is a very small aspect of what made a warrior a warrior. Egil Skallagrimsson did not become the Germanic hero to our ancestors that he was just because he could go out and kill people. Yeah, he was really good at that. And that was one of the main things that defined him as a hero, as a warrior hero to our people. But he was also a hero and a warrior because of the leadership he provided. He provided land, he provided funds, he provided jobs. He taught and assisted with his entire community. He spoke at the thing. He led the thing. He pushed for relegation with kings and princes in other countries. Now, true, not all of us, if any of us, are going to do that kind of stuff today. But we can still contribute to our community, and we can still contribute in a positive manner. The fact is, the only thing that will determine us as warriors is our final place when we die, which, if we look at the old writings, that is determined by our glory. What we do now, that will be remembered by our family and our community when we pass to the next world, whatever the next world may be, will determine whether or not we are warriors. Whether or not we are ever Einanyar is determined by our ancestors and our gods. So anybody who refers to themselves as Einanyar, unless they've made the sacrifice that you've made or better, they don't get to call themselves. None of us get to call ourselves Einanyar. That is determined when we die, and the ancestors and the gods get to say whether or not we're Einanyar. Being warriors is about a lifetime of sacrifice and contribution and leadership. That being said, that type of contribution and leadership comes from education and intelligence. No bullshit. Period. End of subject. You need to be there for people when they look to you for leadership, when they need leadership, whether they're asking you for it or not. If you have somebody in your community who's acting like a jackass, and those actions are going to adversely affect your community, and you truly consider yourself a warrior and a leader, your responsibility is to step up and do something. To say something, and if saying something doesn't affect the situation in a positive manner, to do something. And if doing something doesn't positively affect the situation, it is your responsibility to remove him. That may mean losing a friend. That may mean pissing off a bunch of people. And I've had to do it a lot of times. I'm chieftain of the Asatru Alliance because I'm willing to step up and make the sacrifices that have cost me friends because friends were being fucking stupid. And stupid hurts everybody. And if stupid can't be addressed with conversation, and then stupid can't be addressed with action, then stupid has to be removed before people get hurt. That is your responsibility as a warrior, to keep people from getting hurt. Sometimes that means you get hurt. Sometimes that means you make the sacrifices that other people don't want to make. Well, I don't want to address Bob because Bob drinks too much and gets out of line. Well, are you the leader of the community? Are you a warrior? Because if you're not, then maybe it's not your responsibility to do so. But if you are one of those people, if you want to be one of those people, and you want to be considered one of those people, then yeah, you need to go to Bob and say, Bob, you drink way too much at gatherings, and you get out of line, and it's bothering a bunch of people, and I need you to stop. And Bob's either going to say yes or he's going to say no, and he says no, then you get to take action. And action doesn't put him down and say, okay, Bob, look, I'm not giving you any more beer when you come to events. And Bob comes to events and drinks anyways and gets smashed. You throw Bob out of the events and say you're done. Bob says yes and doesn't make a real effort, then again, it is your responsibility to take action. Say, okay, look, we can't give Bob beer. Bob starts sneaking in beer, getting drunk anyways, getting out of hand. You need to remove Bob from the event. Now that probably means you're going to piss Bob off. And any of Bob's friends are going to get pissed off. You know what? Dude, that's life. You're either there for your community or you're not. And if you're not, you don't deserve to call yourself a warrior. And I'm going to be the first person to call you out on it. Because if I don't get to call myself a warrior because I haven't lived up to the standards that I say are required, then you don't get to do it either. That is what we're going to move into modern survivalism and preparation. Being able to physically defend yourself or your folk or your family is one thing. And it's actually not that difficult of a thing. Most anybody can learn to shoot a gun. Excuse me. If you can fire a gun, you can defend your family in general. Anyone can learn how to fight. You don't have to be a martial arts expert or a grand champion or a world champion kickboxer or anything like that to be able to physically defend yourself. You just got to know how to hurt somebody and be willing to do it. You don't have to be a world-class fencer or Olympian to be able to pick up a bladed weapon and hurt somebody with it. The techniques are relatively easy and most people don't know how to do it anyways. Those skills are actually relegated to a very small aspect of what it meant to be a warrior to our ancestors and should mean today. The bigger part of it was provision. You were looked to as a leader because you could lead through hard times. Because you were prepared for hard times before they were hard. You could see hard times coming when they were on the horizon, and you knew what needed to be done to get yourself and your people through it in the best and most comfortable fashion. In today's standards, that means preparation. It means modern survivalism.